שלום.
אוקיי.
למה אני על מיוט? אוקיי. כולם שומעים אותי? מקווה שכן.
כן.
אוקיי. יופי. אז נתחיל, ומי שככה יעלה בהמשך יצטרף אלינו. אז שלום לכולם, אני שמחה לפגוש אתכם. אנחנו נמצאים בתקופה מאתגרת ולא פשוטה, ודווקא במצב הזה אפשר להביט, להסתכל פנימה ולחפש הזדמנויות חדשות, שבסוף המצב הזה ייפתר כשימצאו חיסון, אני מניחה. תזכרו שמכון הייצוא נמצא כאן כדי לסייע לכם, יש לנו את הכלים שעומדים לרשותכם, אם זה שירותי ייעוץ עם מגוון יועצים, אם זה שירותי מידע עם מנועי חיפוש לגורמים עסקיים, פלטפורמת e-commerce, משפיענים ברשת, הכל לפי תחום ולפי מדינה, מגוון וובינרים, בכל הנושאים שקשורים לייצוא. בחודש הבא אנחנו נקיים סדנת לינקדין לחיפוש גורמים עסקיים שתהיה ממוקדת קוסמטיקה, ולמי שחבר במכון הייצוא הסדנה היא ללא עלות, אז שווה להירשם. אז אנחנו כאן לרשותכם לסייע לכם בכל הנושאים שקשורים לפעילות הייצוא שלכם. לפני שנתחיל אני רוצה להציג את אסתי איילון קובו, שהיא הנספחת הכלכלית בבייג'ינג, שתגיד כמה מילים על הפעילות שלהם בסין, ואז נתחיל. אז אסתי, הבמה שלך.
תודה רבה, ניצן. Thank you, Arthur. I will continue in Hebrew only for a few minutes because our audience is, they are Israeli companies, so שלום לכולם, אסתי איילון קובו, נספחת כלכלה בבייג'ין, סין. שמחה תמיד לראות עניין בתחום התמרוקים בסין. תחום מאתגר מאוד פה רק מבחינה רגולטורית, מבחינה הפוטנציאל המסחרי, הפוטנציאל הוא אדיר. אני חלק מחבורה שנקראת מנהל סחר חוץ, זה מנהל שיושב תחת משרד הכלכלה והתעשייה. אנחנו מפעילים כמה כלים. אחד זה בעצם מערך נספחים כלכליים, יש לנו יותר מ-50 משרדים כלכליים ברחבי העולם, כשמתוכם 43 מאוישים על ידי נספחים כלכליים. אנחנו מפעילים גם מערך כלי סיוע לתעשייה, ואת מחלקת מדיניות סחר שאחראית על הסכמי סחר. יש לנו נספחויות בכל רחבי העולם, סין זה מקרה ייחודי, אין עוד מדינה שיש בה נספחויות כמות נספחויות כמו בסין, יש לנו חוץ, בבייג'ין אנחנו שני נספחים, אבל עם בייג'ין אני אסיים, יש לנו נספחות בצ'נגדו, בגואנג'ו, בשנגחאי, בהונג קונג, וכמו שאמרתי, 2 בבייג'ין. איך בעצם אנחנו יכולים לסייע לכם? אנחנו עוזרים עם בעיות רגולציה בממשל, זה התפקיד העיקרי שלי, ובוא נגיד שבסין לא חסרה לי עבודה. אנחנו עוזרים בבעיות מול המכס, איתור מפיצים, קניינים וסוכנים, חיבור למשקיעים זרים, תיאום פגישות בתערוכות, משלחות נכנסות ויוצאות, קידום הסכמי סחר ותמיכה בהסכמי מו"פ. אנחנו בשנה האחרונה, זה אני מדברת כמנהל סחר חוץ, אצלנו מעל 400 משלחות עסקיות, יש לנו מעל 1,600 פניות של חברות, זה מספר פר חברה ולא פר פנייה, טיפלנו בפניות של כ-3,000 יצואנים, ומעל ל-320 סיפורי הצלחה, אנחנו מודדים כמה אנחנו מצליחים באמת לעזור לחברות ישראליות. בקצרה על מערך הנספחים בסין, כמו שאמרתי, אנחנו בבייג'ין 2, אחד יאיר אלבין אחראי על קידום יצוא בעצם הוא אחראי על קידום יצוא, ואני אחראית על יחסי ממשל ורגולציה, ועל תחום המדיקל. למה תחום המדיקל אני מקדמת יצוא? בגלל שזה תחום שהרגולציה מאוד מאוד כבדה, כפי שאתם חלקכם, מי שכבר פועל בסין מכיר, תמרוקים נדרשים להליך רישום כמעט כמו תרופות, אבל פה בסין מצאנו דרכים מעניינות לעקוף את זה, וזה דרך השיווק אונליין. לא יודעת מי מהנספחים, אני חושבת שהנספחת שלנו בצ'נגדו נמצאת, צ'נגדו, 2018, ב-2018 נבחרו למטרופולין של עולם הקוסמטיקה, פוטנציאל אדיר בתחום הקוסמטיקה הרפואית. יש מגמה, הממשל המקומי משקיע משאבים רבים, כסף רב בקידום התחום הזה באזור הזה. שירלי קויפמן היא הנספחת הכלכלית בגואנג'ו, היא מקדמת מדי שנה, היא עובדת מדי שנה על תערוכה שנקראת קוסמופרוף, זו תערוכת דגל בהונג קונג. השנה היא לא תתקיים בשל המצב, אבל אנחנו כן מחפשים חלופות וירטואליות. שנגחאי...
קוסמופרוף, דרך אגב, אני מפריעה לך שנייה, קוסמופרוף, דרך אגב, כרגע מתקיימת למכון הייצוא, אבל אין ביטן ישראלי, באמת בשל המצב.
אוקיי, אז אני יכולה להגיד לך שמהדיבור פה זה שזה כנראה, או שזה יידחה למועד קצת יותר מאוחר, כנראה ל-2021, או שתהיה איזושהי חלופה. כרגע גם בהונג קונג הם סובלים מגל, אני חושבת כבר חמישי או שישי, ולכן אני בספק שיתקיימו תערוכות. שנגחאי, אחד מהתחומים המובילים בשנגחאי, את המשלחת הכלכלית בשנגחאי מוביל ניב חנן. הם עובדים בעיקר על תערוכה שנקרא שנגחאי ביוטי. במזרח סין, איפה שנמצא, באזור של שנגחאי, נמצאים ענקי המסחר האלקטרוני, שזה אליבאבא והקניון האינטרנטי שלהם, טימול. ערוצי הסיוע המרכזיים שלנו, אתם מוזמנים לפנות אלינו דרך מערכת ה-ERM, אנחנו יודעים לאתר לכם הזדמנויות עסקיות בסין, אנחנו יודעים ליזום מפגשים עם תאגידי ענק, סין תמיד זה כמו משהו רחוק ואקזוטי של איך בכלל מתקשרים, אז יש לנו, הצוותים המקומיים שלנו מקיימים קשרים עם אנשי קשר מובילים בחברות גדולות, יש לנו מידע עסקי שאנחנו יכולים לחלוק, סקירות רגולטוריות, למי מכם שיחליט להיכנס לשוק הסיני, לא דרך המחירות אונליין, אלא דרך מיקום המוצר בשוק, וזה יצריך בעצם הליך רגולציה מלא, רישום תחת ה-FDA הסיני. מוזמנים להיכנס לבלוג שלנו, לאתר, ואני אשמח ניצני בסיכום האירוע, אם תשלחי, תעבירי את כתובות המייל שלנו למי שירצה להמשיך ולשאול שאלות. אני מקווה שתהנו ותמצאו את ההרצאה כמועילה.
תודה, אסתי. ארתור, I'm going to present you in Hebrew, sorry. אז ארתור הוא מנהל האסטרטגיה הגלובלית והדיגיטלית בחברת SPRG Beijing, שהיא בשיתוף פעולה עם חברת היח"צ הישראלית סילקרוד. בעצם עם החברה הזו עבדנו בעבר לקידום אירועי קוסמטיקה באסיה, אם זה תערוכת הונג קונג, אם זה תערוכת צ'יינה ביוטי בשנגחאי, ועוד פעילויות. ובאמת ביקשתי מארתור שיעביר לנו איזשהו מפגש בנושא באמת ככה התנהגות צרכנים והרגלי הקנייה למוצרי טיפוח ויופי לאור המשבר הנוכחי. אז נתחיל, ארתור, the floor is yours.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Nitsan. And I'm going to assume that everything you just said was wonderful and fantastic. I have to practice on my Hebrew, but next time I insist that we do everything 100% in Mandarin at this point. So everybody on this call right now is going to have to start taking Mandarin classes, and we can have a little test next week for you. Or we'll be happy once a lot of this mess that's been happening internationally clears up. We'd love to see all of you in either Beijing or Shanghai. But thank you so much, Nitsan, for allowing me to have the opportunity to present this today. And thank you very much, Etsy. I hope to be meeting you very soon in Beijing. And for everybody who's participating, a very special thank you. I know Israel, we are very, very close to Israel, of course, through our partnership with Silkroad. So thank you, Lior Verona, who's also on the call, our partner in Silkroad. We know, of course, Israel, like many other countries, is experiencing difficulties at the moment. We know it all too well. We, of course, went through everything from the beginning. So we just hope that everything is reconciled and everything gets to normal very, very soon. So maybe I'll start with a little bit of an introduction for myself. I'm going on my 14th year in China, specifically within Beijing. Focusing primarily on communications and digital strategies in both B2C and B2B scenarios. Of course, within that, I have a lot of background in consumer goods. Coming to China, 2006, 2007, we have to realize that this was before Beijing was on the front page of every newspaper back then. But anybody who was here at that time really gets the sense, culturally, especially economically, that Beijing was going, and China in general, was going to be a force to be reckoned with within the near future. And of course, this is exactly what we have seen. And of course, as a result of the fantastic innovation that we've seen in the social media sphere within China, as well as the incredibly large population, of course, 1.3, 1.4 billion, as well, coupled with the ever-growing middle class. Of course, we see year over year the Chinese have turned into powerhouse consumers. And so what we see again as the advent of the digital technologies are increasing exponentially within China, more so here than anywhere else in the world, as well as the digital, as well as the mobile penetration, the e-commerce technologies bringing goods from China and other parts of the world from a cross-border scenario to Chinese consumers has increased exponentially year over year. And so this is what we have seen. And of course, this is why e-commerce for somebody in our profession is, is something that needs to be reckoned with. I guess what I'll start by saying, I have a few, you guys can say hello, of my team members here, okay? And I selected them specifically because, of course, you guys are the best of Israeli cosmetics. And I wanted to show you, give you a little bit example of your Chinese target market here, because throughout their salaries, I'm going to say that probably they're spending between 30 and 40% directly on cosmetics. So if you want to convince anybody, these are the people that you want to convince. And actually, they're a fantastic resource in terms of communications and marketing, specifically because this is, in fact, the target group that you want to achieve. So if anybody wants to get in touch with me in the future to ask a question, this happens a lot, about in terms of ideas about how the product should work, or the packaging, or the design, and if it's appealing, feel free to use our resources here in Beijing to get some insight on that. And guys, feel free if you have a question or if anything is unclear, to stop me and just jump in at any time. We can move forward fairly casually. So for the purpose of the discussion today, we wanted to keep things relatively general, just because with all the groups that are represented today through this call, everybody is at a different stage in their understanding of the China market. Some are more advanced in terms of their footprint within China. Some might have already been on some very relevant platforms in China, the Alibaba platforms like Tmall and Taobao or JD.com. Other ones are just identifying and are deciding to establish a footprint within China, and others are looking to make that leap. Because one thing, having been here for a very long time in this area and spoken to many, whether it be fast-moving consumer goods or cosmetics from all around the world, these organizations, a lot of these companies such as yours, they realize that they need to reckon with China. China is extremely important for the reasons that I discussed in the beginning. The ever-growing middle class, and in terms of purchasing power, is absolutely unbelievable, specifically when it comes to cosmetics. But making that leap into the China market can be extremely difficult for international companies, just because everything in China operates in a very localized manner. There are a lot of unique policies, and among all of the main platforms that you might be introduced to, a lot of them have very different policies on operations, specifically for foreign brands, and working within those policies, depending on the products that you're selling, there's a whole other set of rules and regulations that you would have to follow. So this is why we want to just kind of take a step back and be a little bit general, because depending on who you are and what kind of products that you're selling, there's going to be a number of different scenarios that might be applicable to you. So I know some of you might have questions, very specific questions about your products or entering the Chinese market on some of these local domestic e-commerce platforms or the cross-border platforms. These are totally fine. What I would love in those situations is you either contact me, we take it offline through Nitsan or say through Lior or directly to me, and we can, of course, have that conversation here. So what we wanted to do for today is really focus on what's been happening kind of over the last 6 months to see where the industry is at. Of course, we know a lot of industries have suffered over the past 6 months as well due to the COVID situation. So the purpose of what we want to establish today is just to get a better understanding of where we are and where we can see ourselves maybe, you know, the last 2 quarters of this year and maybe the first 2 quarters of 2021. So moving forward here, just a little bit about what we're going to discuss. I want to start with just a general overview of e-commerce in China. I think this is very helpful to get some perspective. A lot of people tend to be shocked when they see these kinds of numbers, but it's always good to get some perspective in terms of what we are looking at here. Then go into some maybe COVID related consumption habits, some very interesting points here. Then a little bit into overall cosmetic brands and sale in China and e-commerce. Part 4 is very, very interesting here because this is live streaming. I'm not sure how many of you are knowledgeable about live streaming in China, but as a function of e-commerce, this is the absolute hottest platform among all the top selling groups right now, and the most effective one. I want to jump into a case study that some of you might be familiar with or might not be familiar with. It is an Israeli company, a cosmetics company, and then jump in a little bit into platforms and comparison. The last part here, we could probably do an entire master's degree on. So we don't want to spend too much time because, again, like I said, all the platforms are very different, especially in the way they deal with companies with Chinese licenses and representative offices compared to completely cross-border e-commerce channels, but we can go through it and skim through it. So just quickly, in an overview here, sorry, I just got to move my window. What we see in these charts right here are online shopping sales compared to total retail sales of consumer goods going back from 2015. And what we're seeing here, of course, is a very strong and steady increase of those online shopping sales as a result of the entire piece of the pie in terms of all of retail sales of consumer goods here. So if anybody's not familiar with the conversion, I'm all in RMB here. So you want to divide this by 7, and that would give you the USD numbers as well. So we can see consistent and steady growth, compound annual growth rate of close to 30% every single year, exceeding the growth rate close to 8% of all of total retail sales. So we can see that, you know, e-commerce is a major, major driving force, and the platforms have been extremely intuitive and extremely adept at meeting consumer needs ultimately. Now, the one amazing thing in China in terms of why there's so much incredible innovation that we are experiencing here is one, mainly because of the remarkably robust consumer group can necessitate extremely specialized platforms for e-commerce selling. So where we see, say, you know, 1 or 2 main dominant players internationally, whether it be the Amazon or whether it be you know, eBay, we see China as a real innovator in the space because the overwhelming consumer drive and need for these and want for these goods essentially is creating an environment where innovation can be so fundamentally key in this area. And one of the reasons why, or I've listed 3 of the reasons why ultimately a lot of the Chinese are moving towards online purchasing is, of course, the preferential discounts that can be found online. more convenient selection and distribution, more comprehensive coverage, and different types of commodity categories. Personally, I believe one of the main reasons as well is because inherently the shopping experience in China is fundamentally different to anything that I've experienced anywhere else in the world. Originally, I'm from Toronto, Canada, so you know that's where I can essentially have the biggest comparison. Where still going to brick and mortar stores is very, very commonplace and very key. However, what I've seen in China, especially in tier 1 cities, tier 1 being Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen, potentially Guangzhou as well, is that people they will do shopping in brick and mortar stores. However, they know that the vast selection of the different types of products that they want to buy are going to be seen in much more of a diverse way in the online space, number one. And number two, when they actually decide to make that purchase, they might go to that store just as an outing for a weekend, just to hang out and go to those brick and mortar stores. But oftentimes when they're actually making those purchases, they're going to be making those purchases online as well. Another main reason is because shopping in China has now overwhelmingly become a socialized activity. When you live and have grown up in an environment where one of the major concerns is the quality of the goods that you are consuming, whether it be, like FMCG goods, whether it be food and beverage, and also whether it be in cosmetic categories, the quality of the product is absolutely key. And this has been an ongoing issue in China, at least for the last 15 to 20 years. So going online provides consumers with the added layer of a socialized scenario where they can compare different products and the ratings of different products, with other people in terms of their reviews and things like that. So even though, of course, these things are happening, say on Amazon or on eBay, it becomes exponentially more important in China because of the history of how kind of consumer goods are seen, number one, and say potentially the lack of consumer protections, which have gone into overdrive essentially over the last few years here. So again, for the major platforms, what we're looking at here, e-commerce industry in China, this is looking at the marketing revenue that has been driven primarily by the group that you are likely most familiar with, which is Alibaba. So you can see in between 2015 and 2020, we're looking at the marketing revenue that they've experienced. All of the companies that are selling on their platforms are investing into advertising and marketing within that platform. So you can see, of course, with the growth, this is how companies like Alibaba have absolutely dominated and why they're worth billions and billions and billions of dollars. And you can see the rapid growth of Alibaba as kind of the flag bearer for e-commerce within China has grown rapidly in terms of their revenue, reaching around, since 2020, Q1, 283 billion yuan. And this is through their marketing revenue alone. And this is actually very important to realize for companies overseas that are looking to get into, say, Alibaba, which is, Taobao and Tmall, or whether they want to go on to JD.com. Getting on the platform is one thing, but this is not going to guarantee that anybody is going to see your product. The way that these companies make their money is not only through transactions of the turnover or of the conversion, is that if you want them to send data flow in terms of advertising or for users to see your products, then you're going to have to pay additionally into the platforms for advertising as well. So one thing that I will let you know, or that is very important to know, is that it's very important to couple your e-commerce strategy with not just going onto the platform, but how you're going to continue to influence those consumers, whether it be through native advertising, through the platform that you're deciding, through KOL management. Of course, what I mean by that is key influencers, or not necessarily using celebrities, but key consumers, because there's a whole new group of KOLs, which we call KOC now, which is key online consumers. It's just consumers that have become famous in China for their knowledge about consumer products. And this is how live streaming took off, and we'll get to that in a moment. But one thing that I really want to underscore is the fact, again, that it's not just good enough to be on these platforms. You have to have a strategy for meeting those consumers' eyes to your goods. It's not just going to happen. Also, we have here Pinduoduo. Not sure how many of you are familiar with it. Their marketing revenue is exceeding 10 billion. And they've only been around since around 2017, 2018 here as well. So we're looking specifically right now at the e-commerce industry as it pertains to cosmetics. Sales of cosmetics and e-commerce platforms in the billions right here of RMB, pretty steady with the proportion rate of growth of e-commerce. The development of mobile internet, 1/4 of all e-commerce sales is coming from the mobile phone. So that means that everything, of course, has to be mobile optimized or mobile ready. And of course, the key platforms are very aware of this and have completely optimized their selling towards mobile consumers. And so we've seen a major push for cosmetics on the top platforms, Tmall, JD.com. And both of these platforms have seen a massive increase in penetration rate from the beauty industry. I would say, and I believe my colleagues here would agree with me, that Tmall has taken the mantle much more, because JD.com is seen or started off as a major electronics goods purveyor, but of course they have strong representation in the beauty industry. Since 2016, it's grown especially through Tmall. And as of 2018, online sales for all the industry became the largest channel for the top sellers. So it has completely blown away any of the sales of any of the companies that they're doing in their brick and mortar location, no matter how many locations they have in malls all across China. So because as of 2019, we can see the scale of cosmetics industry reached 147.3 billion yuan, making it maybe between 1/3 and 1/4 of all sales that are happening on Chinese e-commerce. And we can see, getting a little bit into the COVID situation right now, for how it's affected the e-commerce industry. Excuse me, we just had a major shopping festival. You know, there are shopping festivals that we have, of course, in the US and Canada. I believe it's Black Friday. There's 1 or 2. Nobody does shopping festivals like the Chinese. I believe that there's about 15 to 18 on the calendar that are specifically oriented towards overwhelming amounts of consumer purchasing on these days specifically. JD started the shopping festival, I believe, on June 18th, but then Tmall decided to do their own shopping festival. This year, 2020, JD.com's total order amount for this festival, less than 1 month ago, in 1 day, wait a second, sorry, that was around 5 days. It was a 1-week festival, sorry. I was thinking of 11/11, which is in November, Singles Day, was 269 billion RMB, and 187 brands achieved an order value of more than 100 million. And the top categories for this festival, food and beverage, beauty, and skincare were more the most important categories for the consumers. Tmall, who is consistently blowing records out of the water, with the order total amount closing in on around 700 billion yuan, which is about 100 billion US dollars over the 4 to 5 days here. And Pinduoduo, which is a new market entrant in terms of a platform, increased about 120% during the same period last year. So you can see, even though we are still midst in the COVID situation, these top e-commerce channels have definitely rebounded here. So diving a little bit more, talking about how COVID has changed a little bit over the time, I would say about since January till about now. Of course, you see that us in China, we're still wearing our masks, so we're not 100% out of the water yet, even though things are slowly getting back to normal. What we're seeing is that you know, a lot of people are spending a lot more time at home. So because of that, it's cultivated new habits, and I think this has happened, you know, everywhere around the world. I guess that's what people are calling the new normal that we've all experienced here. So a lot of things have come to the forefront that they weren't necessarily at the forefront before, you know, in terms of safe, health, online, and convenience are the four main elements that people are really caring about here. And when it comes to safety and health, of course, we can see the masks, disinfectants, and sanitizer were the top 3 products in Tmall in January when you could access them. Because, of course, like everywhere else in the world, and I'm sure Israel was in the same situation, that very quickly these products became difficult to find, even online. Food safety became a big issue once people found out that COVID could be spread through packages and delivery and things like that. And for a while, delivery was halted in China. So a lot more people started cooking at home and started being much more concerned about where their food was coming from, as well as purifiers and disinfectants and whatever, things like that. And already in a society that is dominated by e-commerce purchases and through online consumers, we saw a massive jump in things that people would not normally buy online. They started buying online as well. So even though there was a huge group of Chinese consumers that were buying their fresh meat and their fresh produce, fruits and vegetables, and domestic or imported fish and things like that, a whole other massive percentage of individuals started buying it online as well. And so it created this increased online consuming revolution. What we did see at the beginning was a decrease in sales of what we'll generally call beauty products. And main reason why is because people weren't leaving their house. So they didn't care, essentially, what they were looking like. And so we saw a dip in things like lipstick and foundation. But since then, it's recovered and has gone under control. And I think this is one of the reasons why you know, we have these shopping festivals here, because we're able to kickstart these shopping habits and letting people know, okay, it's not, it wasn't a surprise that at the time that we had this last major shopping festival was the time in China that everyone started going back to work, where a lot of the women would have to consider, you know, what it is that they are, what it is that they're looking like, you know, essentially. So we see after the Spring Festival, essentially, we can see a major drop in makeup products, decreasing by about 42% compared with the period before. We can see that. So after the Spring Festival, a good example would be that eyeshadow products specifically, this year after Spring Festival revenue, about 270 million RMB. The sales of that was 6 million before the Spring Festival, month of the Spring Festival, the revenue about 380 million. So it decreased, but it didn't decrease, you know, to the point of that people were not buying it at all. So of course we see now with the resumption of work and production, the demand for beauty products is going up and up. However, what we are seeing is that everybody is still continuing to wear masks wherever they're going. So we're probably going to see much more of a demand for eye makeup. The demand for eye makeup, I'll say, will pick up faster than for lipstick and those types of products, because of course you cannot see that part people's face. However, for those who are involved in the development of skincare products, which we know that a lot of the best skincare products in the world are coming from Israel, and a lot of them are represented here right now. There's good news, because having all of that time during COVID at home, and what I had said before about priorities changing and then people thinking about health, safety, and security and things like this, really made people think a lot more about their skin health. And so, and they didn't have, say, like a reserve of skincare products, and a lot of people ran out of their skincare products. And so that's why what we're seeing now is a major overcompensation. A lot of more people are buying these types of products now, and they're going through the WeChat mini apps and mobile apps and using their other networks, or of course classic e-commerce platforms in order to purchase. However, what we're seeing is that even though the demand has significantly risen, we know that there has been issues with a lot of companies, foreign companies, in terms of their ability to export into China. So the supply has taken a hit here as well. So one thing, again, throughout this whole health conscious orientation renaissance, I'll call it, that COVID has caused within China, is that a lot of Chinese, and of course this is happening with the increased middle class as well, everywhere around the world, but especially in China, that people are looking more specifically at the types of ingredients that are going into the products. So this is where we would, as a communication professional, I would definitely suggest, if you are communicating with your Chinese consumers and Chinese stakeholders, that you put major emphasis on the purity and the high level and imported level of the different ingredients that are going into the development of the product, and how natural and safe the products are, because this is very much top of mind for Chinese consumers right now. So moving forward as well, I believe this just gives a little bit of perspective from what's been happening in terms of sales for, I believe, makeup and skincare, beauty products, I can say in general, companies that everybody is familiar with, such as Estee Lauder, Lancome, L'Oreal, SK2, and Olay, of their numbers from January 1st to 2020 to May of 2020, only a couple of months ago. So there were ups and down, and once you can see in the middle, there was a spike once everything was getting back to normal, which would say in China, the deliveries were getting back to normal within China, and people could more easily access the products. So the thing is that when things shut down for a very long time here, things that people ordered in January were not necessarily arriving until March. So this could attest to the spike that they're seeing in March here as well. Does anybody have any questions about what I've just covered there, or shall we just wait? I think we could just wait until the end. I'm trying to go quickly as I can here. There's a lot to get through. But live streaming, I'm not so sure if anybody has or is familiar with how much live streaming and live streaming personalities and technologies have taken off in China. It is absolutely incredible, and it's something very, very unique to the Chinese e-commerce platform, essentially, where you are bringing the best of, what we would say, social media, as well as the best of e-commerce, bringing it to the millions of consumers, creating this whole new set, influencer set that we can call the KOC, which is key opinion consumers as well, that are really, really driving market consumption. And we're going to see here how this was very successful with a specific case from a brand from Israel moving forward here. So of course, like I had mentioned before, with the rapid development of the internet technology, the demand for daily entertainment has become more and more prevalent. It's become more and more obvious. So what these live streaming platforms have done is that they've brought together the best of the entertainment aspects of these platforms, and they've combined it and monetized it through selling and e-commerce. Now, this goes into something very interesting about the Chinese consumer psyche that I believe is very, very different to what I've seen in other places around the world, whether it be maybe in Israel or say United States, Canada, or in Europe, that sometimes we are outside of China are bothered by any sort of attempt to bring in product placement in any sort of entertainment scenario. So we know with that, if it's online or offline, or whether it be in a television show, we are very, very sensitive to product placement and being in a scenario where it seems like we're being overtly sold to. But the thing is, in China is extremely different because not only is it not weird or strange, it's actually very much encouraged. And the reason for that is that because the Chinese over the last, say, 10 or 15 years have become such avid consumers, they become obsessed with the knowledge about different brands and what is available around the world. Because remember, we are in a society where, just going back, say 20 or 25 years ago, there were many, many, many limitations on what types of brands were on the ground here in China. So oftentimes these sort of these platforms and these shows revolve around brands and products, because for Chinese consumers and netizens as a whole, it becomes very, very exciting for them that they can see their favorite influencer, they can see their favorite celebrities, but at the same time learn more about the brands that those people are accustomed to or like very, very much. Now, combine that with an overwhelming obsession with celebrity culture here, it creates an environment where, of course, this type of live streaming entertainment can fit in e-commerce very, very effectively. So just to give some statistics here, in 2019, the market scale for e-commerce was about 450 billion RMB, an increase in 226% year over year. But this represents only 4.5% of all of the total online shopping scale, which means what we're going to see in 2021 and 2022 and beyond is an overwhelming increase of live streaming as it takes over more and more of the space that traditional advertising or communications, or for example, just having an influencer on WeChat do a spot on your product, live streaming is the way to go, because what we're seeing here is not just implied or the hope for conversion, we're seeing immediate conversion and sales on the product, right? And we're seeing things that, of course, Chinese consumers love, which is exclusive discounts that can only happen within this live streaming scenario. And another thing is that they're seeing professionals in an entertaining way do these types of professional introductions. So it kind of takes the thinking away for them, where they have somebody who's interesting, charismatic, often very handsome or very beautiful, providing a introduction to these products, and they're having this real-time interaction, which is so important in social media, and it's what essentially is the basis and the foundation of all of Chinese social media in terms of how it grew so exponentially influential within the region. And one thing that's also very important, again, is this phenomenon of what live streaming creates, where it creates a rush buying phenomenon atmosphere where you want to be part of the group that's engaging with this celebrity and with this KOL or KOC. You see how many people are buying it one by one by one by one, the numbers going up. You feel that you have to get involved in buying it as well. And the numbers are absolutely extraordinary. And again, like I was saying before, once you buy the product, you feel part of this community, which is something that's very important within China and really happens only on the online space here. So it really is the biggest growth engine, as you see here, towards marketing communications in the future. Here, what I just wanted to show as well, I touched upon it, about the regular advertising flow of investing, for example, on these main platforms. Essentially what happens is that when, JD.com, Tmall, Taobao, advertising is their bread and butter, and it's the major driver towards sales, that through the advertising channels, through their searching capabilities, this is how people are going to see your products on their platforms and why it's absolutely necessary. So what's happening now is that we can see through the chart right here that the live streaming ads is creeping up more and more and more and more and more. And eventually will, over the next couple years, probably be at the same level of what brands are paying for display ads in the future. So to give an example of how live streaming works through e-commerce, we go back to about a month ago for our June 18th shopping festival. Total sales volume, just what you see right here on the left with these two ladies, the Weiya Studio, in one day on June 16th, they reached 140 million RMB in sales. And you can see the top seller in this area is cosmetics and beauty products. The skin care set, of that number, the sales exceeded 136.5 million RMB out of the 140 million. Austin Lee, we're going to get into a case study that involves him and an Israeli brand a little bit later on, but he's another top live streaming anchor in China, specifically for cosmetics as well as skincare brands. And ladies, correct me if I'm wrong, but he's known as Brother Lipstick, right? Yeah, okay. The king of lipstick, or the prince, right? The prince of lipstick, which is not a bad name to have, I guess. But he even outdid the Weiya Studio that one day on June 18th reached more than 200 million yuan with the Shiseido skincare set being promoted as 100.3 million yuan just for those products specifically. But either way, these are just two anchors or two live selling personalities. We can call them KOCs, which in the larger realm of key opinion leaders, where there's thousands of them, you can see that 30% of the products sold by these two answers are cosmetic or skin beauty related products here as well. So what we see here are the top live streaming platforms. And the reason why I've shown this here is just to show you that I'm sure all of you are familiar with TikTok. The Chinese version of TikTok, the original TikTok, is Douyin here. You might be familiar with the funny videos that people are creating. I'm sure it's popular in Israel as well. But fundamentally, these platforms are turning into live streaming e-commerce juggernauts. So whatever they're using it for in the United States, with the 470 million active users, okay, the daily gross merchandise volume hits over 20 million RMB of things being sold on Douyin platform through live selling. Pinduoduo, active users 250 million. The gross merchandise volume is 360 million. And I'm sure there's some of you out there that probably have never even heard of Pinduoduo. We can discuss it a little later. Alibaba, of course, daily active users, 700 million, with the GMV at 220 million a day. That's just through live streaming platforms as well. We have another one, Kuaishou, 207 million, 70 million users with a daily GMV of 100 million. And then the last one is JD.com. They have around 88 million people actively viewing their live sales platforms, but we don't have their daily GMV. We could probably assume it's somewhere between maybe 40 and 50 million. So that's daily here as well. So remember I was discussing case study with you. Of course, all of you are familiar with the company Ahava. So we don't have to get into too much of an introduction, but of course, similar to a lot of top Israeli cosmetics company, a lot of their products are made from mud and mineral-based compounds from the Dead Sea. We all know as well that in 2015, Fosun agreed to purchase a controlling stake in the company. And they did something very, very effective, specifically on Tmall, where I can't underscore enough how important in China the e-commerce experience is, interacting with brands, interacting with the key opinion leaders and the key opinion consumers, how much of somebody's personal identity in China that it contributes to their personal identity and their livelihood, and how important it is for them to be associated with these brands, that Tmall created Tmall Club, which is an experimental marketing unit that focuses on high-end field and top brands to give a new path, essentially, for brands to gather high-quality members and fans of your brands. That really, the purpose of the club is to ensure this brand stickiness and brand love, which is obviously going to increase their repurchase rate from the consumers. And what it's doing is that it's focusing on origin discovery. The people who follow your brand as part of this Tmall Club become obsessed and very, very interested in the origins of these specific products. So, you know, some of these brands are Burberry, Evian, Estee Lauder, Lululemon. They want to really immerse themselves in the brand genesis, their story. Where are these products coming from? And again, for a number of different reasons, this is a very significant departure of how other consumers in other parts of the world relate with the products. Because, of course, people want to know in this modern society and in modern days that they want to ensure that their products are being, you know, ethically sourced and using on products. A lot of people want to make sure that their products are not being tested on animals. I know that's a problem with selling in China because in a lot of cases they insist on it. But these are another level of consumer groups within China that identify a little bit about themselves through the nature of this brand and are very, very interested and obsessed with the, like I said, the genesis of this brand here. And so in May of 2019, what happened is that Ahava, in coordination with the Tmall Club, invited 6 members of the Tmall Club, including Austin Lee, who is the lipstick brother that I just showed you previously, to Israel, to Jerusalem as well. So after seeing all the beautiful natural scenery, the historical culture in Jerusalem, they also went to the Dead Sea, where Austin Lee did a live stream from the Dead Sea. And I believe, and if I'm wrong about this, you guys can correct me, but this is the first commercial exploration, as it were, something of a marketing event like this, or a live streaming promotion or something like this, you know, in let's say 3,000 years in the Dead Sea area. So the 2-hour live stream that was executed was part of this origin discovery concept. And you can see it actually works very, very well, because whether it be Ahava or all of your fantastic brands with the best ingredients in the world possible, you have a remarkable story to tell. So as a, you know, communications expert, it is an absolute dream to be able to bring the people in the Tmall Club, the top, say, consumer ambassadors of your brand, to be in the Dead Sea and to experience the genesis of these products firsthand. And so Austin Lee was considered the chief exploration officer, and he broke even the sales record of 11/11 from the previous year for the turnover for the for the live products. What we can see as a result of this promotion, the total number by the day's end jumped 73,000%, specifically from the Tmall e-commerce top-selling brand categories. It was the top in Alibaba categories, so we can be very happy that it was an Israeli brand. Top in the categories across facial mask, lip balm, and body lotion, where throughout all of this time, live experience, live selling promotion, the viewers had exceeded over 1 million. And so among the products sold, I believe it was the Mineral C moisturizing mask sold, 14,000 of them in 1 minute, 15,000 Tmall exclusive Ahava seaweed extract moisturizing lipstick. So 14,000 of the masks were sold within 1 minute, and 15,000 of the lipsticks were sold in 1 minute here as well. And not only that, because of the incredible success, there was a lot of earned media coverage as well through this promotion, which of course snowballed into significant developments in brand recognition and beyond, creating a snowball effect for people going to their own channels online. So we can see a little bit about Ahava, and what we see when we search Ahava now within China is it's become this kind of pillar of individualization and uniqueness, and kind of a high-level lifestyle. A lot of this that was contributed was from the fantastic images that we saw, you know, of the Tea Club members enjoying themselves at the Dead Sea. But even as we were talking about before, when we saw the 11/11 shopping festival, you know, they have gone down in terms of their overall sales, but they have rebounded as well over the end of the first quarter, beginning of second quarter of this year. So what I have now for you guys is a little bit of the platforms and comparison. You guys,
we have a few questions. I'm sorry to interrupt. We have a few questions. Do you want to answer right now or at the end? What do you prefer?
I can get through the rest of this in about 5 minutes.
All
so
right.
And then I can answer all the questions. Because again, I don't want to spend too much time on the different platforms. There's a lot of information here. And I think anybody who's actually thinking about either if they're on these platforms and they want to take the next step, or if they are interested in thinking about how they can get onto these platforms, everybody is different, obviously. And not only that, everybody has different products which need special consideration. And what I mean by that is that there's different regulations on different products of what you can do for Tmall Global or Tmall in China. So what I'm saying is that if people have specific questions, they can contact me offline. And I'll be happy to spend the time and discuss with them and talk about potentially how SPRG and Silkroad can assist them in what it is that they're doing. So all I'll say here is Tmall, again, as far as cosmetics go and the beauty industry, Tmall is the leader, with JD.com slowly catching up, but definitely for that industry. They have over 25,000 international brands from 92 countries. You can see 5,100 of those categories cover mother and baby, beauty and healthcare, and food, which are some of their major sellers and converters here. Right here, we see a cosmetic brands timeline for when a lot of these brands came on to the Tmall platform. Again, I don't need to go through this in detail. And what I go through here are Tmall global flagship qualifications. Again, there's a number of different types of stores that you can have here requiring different types of recommendations. So we have a brand flagship store, we have a marketplace flagship store, we have an industrial marketplace flagship store, all requiring different qualifications, different levels of investments, and different qualifications for the brands here as well. And like I said before, you know, it's difficult to have a one-size-fits-all solution because everybody's going to have a different scenario here. And so we're talking about the flagship cooperations. So I'm just going to go through this quickly here, and different categories of the service fee rates and technical service fees are listed here as well. Now we move here. The little puppy dog means Jindong, JD.com, and some of their flagship brands operating on their platform. They're the ones that own the June 18th brand as well. Again, they started off with a high level commodities in terms of consumer goods and things like that, but are becoming more and more competitive in these high competitive areas, such as mother and baby, books, food, online travel, as well as more and more cosmetics and healthcare area products and beauty products. So we have some screenshots here as well. And we kept Amazon here because in some circumstances, depending on the product, people still use Amazon within China. But of course, it doesn't have the same growth as others. Pinduoduo that I had mentioned before, we call it a mixture of social and e-commerce platform. The reason is that consumer can buy high quality goods at a lower price by launching the purchasing initiative with their group of friends. So think about it, if you have a Facebook group with you and your friends and you love a certain type of product, that you can get everybody from that group together and you can leverage huge discounts by the sake of having that group if everybody buys it at the same time. I guess we can say a little bit like Groupon, but I would say much more advanced than Groupon. What we're seeing here is a little bit of the kind of the psychographic changes that are happening with the development and improvement of the internet. Different generations, of course, have a different experience with these platforms in terms of consumption. 1/3 are Generation Z. And they're buying things like clothes, cosmetics, etc. Another area that we're seeing a big change is, and I implore what I tell all our cosmetics as well as beauty care, skincare clients, is that start focusing on men as well, because men in China spend a huge amount of money. Of course, we know the core is, younger women, maybe between the ages of 18 and 40 or something like that, but don't forget the men. And one thing that we're seeing as a result of COVID, like I had mentioned before, that people are spending more money on premium beauty products and of course skincare products as well, because they're becoming more and more interested in the genesis of the product and the ingredients in the product. I'm providing here different examples of what you need for Tmall flagship stores and Tmall global flagship stores. Again, same thing with JD.com. And then there's my photo, which means that everything is done here as well. So thank you. Sorry. Thank you for your patience with me. I know I just went on a long run for just over an hour right now. So I hope everything was helpful, and I'll be happy to take your questions.
Yeah. Arthur, can you see the questions?
Can I see the questions? Is somebody sending them in the group chat?
Yeah, in the group chat. Which these platforms can accept cross-border and using live stream for cross-border?
Okay. Pinduoduo, JD.com, as well as Tmall all offer cross-border e-commerce solutions. Okay. What I think is because rather than, I believe when it comes to having it has to do fundamentally with how the shop is set up. But if you want to do live selling, the easier way to do it is to have a local entity and a local store. Because at this point, I'm not 100% certain if you're allowed to do live selling through the global platform. If the product is already in China, then I believe that it should be okay. But the most important thing is the live streaming experience that they're having in order to be able to have that one button purchase scenario. So who was asking that question? Was it Ben? Was it Ben that was asking that question?
Ben Fuchs. Maybe he's not here anymore.
Okay.
Nitzan, we cannot hear you.
Can everybody hear me now?
He's here, yeah.
Okay.
All right, so I can see there are no more questions. So thank you very much, Arthur, for your time and volunteering to do this seminar. It was very interesting and useful. And as China market is tough for the Israeli companies, I'm sure we can find business opportunities for them as we have the most unique products ever. So thank you again, and take
No problem,
care.
guys. All I want to end on is saying that, you know, obviously one of the reasons why Ahava was able to achieve what they achieved is because of the you know, of the relationship with Fosun, and of course what it is that they achieved wasn't cheap. Obviously, there was a lot of money behind it. So not everybody is going to be able to achieve the same result. What I would love to be able to do is be able to, you know, demonstrate, or for the last thing to leave you guys with is to be able to know that there are different levels of entry. Again, there's too many to discuss right now in depth, because even with the question one, you know, what cross-border e-commerce channels can be done, or what the regulations are for, say, JD.com might be different, or I know are different than for the ones for Tmall, as well as Pinduoduo, etc. We would like to look at the product first and then see the situation of the company, where the products are, and then we would be able to have a better idea of what is the best thing to do for the next steps. And there's always areas. It doesn't necessarily have to be like what Ahava has done, but there's always areas of participation. So I hope it was useful. But I encourage anybody who has any following up questions, like I said, you can ask Nitzan, you can ask Lior from Silkroad as well. And we are in the process of right now of optimizing with our e-commerce partners to create a new platform, essentially specifically for Israeli cosmetics brands. So we've been discussing it with our partners at Alibaba and JD.com. So there will be some very exciting news coming within a short period. So.
Okay, so let us know. All right, thank you very much. Thank you again. I'm switching to Hebrew. חברים, תודה רבה שהשתתפתם. מקווה שהמידע היה יעיל עבורכם. אני אשלח לכם את המצגת. אם אתם גם רוצים את הפרטים של ארתור ויצירת קשר עם חברת SPRG, או סילקרוד, חברת יח"צ סינית, אז אנחנו כמובן נשמח להעביר לכם. זהו, אני כאן לסייע לכם, ואתם מוזמנים ליצור קשר. שיהיה המשך יום טוב ובריאות לכולם. ביי ביי.
תודה רבה, ניצן.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Arthur.
Thank you.
Thank you.
תודה רבה.
ביי ביי.
אחלה. היה נחמד, אה?
ניצן, להתראות, כל הכבוד.
ביי, אסתי, תודה.
ביי.
הנה, אוקיי.